Father Madai uses the word cordial, a tonic which stirs up love in those with whom we live and serve. All it takes is a yes from me, a continual, faithful, selfless yes. But how do I do that? How do I see myself reflected in the cordial servant Joseph? How do I mirror this in my daily life? And how am I a tonic for hearts? For this fourth piece in this series on aging in the charism, you will meet three sisters of St. Joseph of Concordia: Sister Pat Luter, Sister Mary Savoy, and Sister Liberata Pellerin. These are their reflections on two questions. What has aging taught me about cordial charity? And what does aging add to my ability to be a cordial servant?
Wednesday, September 3rd, 2010, I was in the play therapy room with a 7-year-old who had been badly abused, neglected, and he was finally abandoned. He was doing child's work, playing in water, and he was narrating the whole thing. I was sitting fairly comfortably on a tiny little chair watching, while Sarah, our intern, was facilitating his work with brief reflections about what he was doing. At one point, this little boy turned to me and said, "You're different." I knew, and the intern knew, that simply reflecting what he said was not enough. I had the presence of mind to say thank you, and we made eye contact very briefly, and he went back to work. So, my reflections about how I am and have been a cordial are in that moment. Brandon said it the best. You're different. Sometimes I am a cordial for the heart, and sometimes I'm a tonic that causes rumblings in the gut. But rumblings can be very cleansing and healing. And when I look at a timeline of my life, I really stand in awe. There was nothing spectacular, and it still isn't considered to be spectacular. My life has been put together through relationships, and isn't that what Joseph was about? I found myself in a CSJ Concordia Catholic boarding school in Silver City, New Mexico, after having failed in a large, prestigious Catholic school as a day hop. They said I was defiant. The CSJs, especially Sister Clarice, reframed defiant as passionate. And most of my decisions have been spur-of-the-moment decisions, as if I trusted my dreams or something. And sometimes those decisions were deemed unwise. But unwise decisions have always given me useful feedback. I can say that most of the time I've said yes to the things I needed to say yes to. The first big yes I remember was when Father Quigley said, "You should think about being a nun." And I said, "Okay," and I have not regretted it. Then I wanted to be a nurse, and I was asked to teach for 1 year. And I said yes to teaching 3 more times, and then I said, "I want to do this the rest of my life." And one of my superiors once said to me, "Sister, it is not a compliment to one when one's name is mentioned and everybody laughs." I was hurt. I was tonicked. But I decided that it was a compliment. And when I got back to my mission, I had a brochure in my stack of mail for clown school. I was amazed. I was cordialed. Sister Faye Hilsman and I went. We learned the power of silence for loving communication. You know, in our practice, we're counselors. We hear too many times how people use silence as a weapon. We wanted to clean that up. We started a clown troupe to teach people how to use silence as a cordial, as a grace. And spur-of-the-moment decisions went on until the mid-70s when Father Ed Hayes suggested that Sister Faye and I would make a good working team. He said we could balance each other. That decision has been the best, biggest blessing of my life. I think that we have balanced each other, and we have had a lot of fun doing it. We went to Joplin, Missouri. We asked Father Ed about a spiritual director. He told us to get a cat. We did, and we now have 2, and they balance each other and they balance us. And some of the decisions that I have made have been really, really difficult. Like Joseph, I've had to decide whether maybe breaking the law had better results than keeping it. Always, it had to do with my own integrity. And while I struggled, the decisions that I needed to make were fairly clear. For example, when we were in one of our parishes, I was fired because of the stand I took about the treatment of women and how that was manifest in the way Faye and I were treated. We had no idea what we were going to do from that point. And then, spur of the moment, an attorney friend suggested that we incorporate ourselves as counselors, as we both had degrees in counseling. We agreed on the spot. He did the paperwork, and Faye and I brainstormed a name for our 501c3. It is now called CEC, the Counseling and Education Center in Grand Junction. We applied for CSJ Foundation money, which had just become available to the community. We moved to Grand Junction, Colorado. We started counseling out of our living room, and the rest of our ministry there is mystery. You know, I really intended to say history, but mystery really works better. After 30 years, we now have a fully staffed office and a board of directors of the most cordial people who have caught the CSJ spirit. Then in 1994, Mary Savoy, with whom I'm sharing this presentation, asked Faye and me to consider going to Eastern Europe for the U.S. Bishops' Conference. We said yeah, and then really, without believing we could raise the money, we did. We went to Bulgaria, and that is mystery. You know, I believe with my whole being that it is the charism of our community, of each sister, of each community member that drives and supports my life. I also believe that I have communicated that charism in whatever local community I've been. For me, I guess it's best expressed in being seized by an abundant love, and each seizure makes each new experience more valid. And often, when I'm with peers, I'm told that I'm refreshing, and that I create a spirit of acceptance, and that I lift spirits. I used to say to that, well, you know, the world has been redeemed. And now I say with Richard Rohr, well, it's heaven all the way to heaven. And I do believe that there are times to take a stand and respect that not everybody may agree with me. After all, Joseph was a person of conscience. I also believe that I need to admit the possibility that I could be wrong. You know, it's also freeing, and I've learned to pray with Anne Lamott. She's one of my favorite mystics. Her morning prayer is whatever, and her evening prayer is, oh well. And another cherished experience in Grand Junction has been belonging to a group, Weavers of Change. We've met every Thursday from 11:30 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. for 18 years. We started as an activist group for women's rights, especially in the church. And we're now a spiritual study group, and we're attracting younger women. Working with two beautiful women in our agrégé program locally has been a gift for me, both given and received. Cordial. They truly carry the charism. And aging has given me the experience in time to confirm what I have known and how I have been known. I am not retired, either from work or life, and all of that includes lots of play and laughter. I do work half-time in my formal ministry, and that allows full-time in my attitudinal ministries. I sit in prayer every day. My cat is my spiritual director. I ride my bike. I watch good movies. I Skype good friends. I cook rich food, and I eat it. And I continue to learn and to grow in amazement.
As I've moved through life, aging in years and experiences, I think I can say with honesty that this being captured by the love of God and God's mission of service to the dear neighbor, especially those caught in poverty, has dominated my life. Not only has it been part and parcel of who I am, But without even much thought, most of the time, I find myself in the midst of individuals and families in need of assistance, whether it's physical, emotional, or financial assistance. I've noticed, however, as I've moved through my 70s and now in my 80s, yes, perhaps my energy not being as vital as it used to be, I have not lost my passion for service with and for the poor. I think I'm even more comfortable, more attentive, more ready to listen and respond, more comfortable calling others to help. Perhaps this is what is meant by the saying, it used to be that ministry was something I did for others outside of myself. Now ministry is just who I am. It is just me and an extension of God through me to others. Some people say to me, "Aren't you retired?" And I say, "Retirement? What is that?" All I know of retirement is that it means I move on in my life, through life, from where I was yesterday to what I feel I can do effectively today. God gives me one day at a time. God leads the way. My task each day is to prayerfully discern God's will for me today and follow. As the saying goes, sufficient for the day are the graces thereof to be a co-worker with Jesus. So right now, as I enter my 80th year of life and the 64th year as a vowed member of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Concordia, I live in a small rural town just north of Concordia, a town named Belleville, and I live with another member of my community. We come together each morning for a period of communal prayer and contemplation. We do not always have daily Mass, but when we do, we participate in the liturgy of the day with other members of our Catholic lay community. And most often, this Mass is followed by informal gathering with coffee and donuts and laughter and just a sharing about farming and families and works. For this parish, the two of us coordinate a special program called Pastoral Services for Senior Parishioners. This includes bringing them communion at home or in the nursing home or in the hospital, or just kind of what I say, tracking them. If it's snowing, we call them and see if they need anything. The size of the town, the ruralness of the population, means that most of us who live in this Republic County know each other, and we share trials and tribulations, joys, gatherings, and just down-to-earth friendly togetherness. A few years ago, I was elected to serve as president of the Republic County Church Women. This is an organization of women from all of the churches that meet twice a year and are just doing charitable works wherever we find them. Then also, I was asked to be a member of the Republic County Ministerial Association as a representative for our 3 Catholic parishes. The Republic County Ministerial Association meets once a month, and we administer a food bank, which I supervise, and serve many other needs of people in the county. I'm also an active member of the Republic County Resource Council, and we share services and just share information about unmet needs and how we might design programs or services to meet these needs. We also administer a job bank and also what we call a benefits service, helping people apply for government assistance. My ministry is not necessarily all done in Belleville or in Republic County. I'm still very involved, as I have been for the past 15 years, assisting sisters in Eastern Europe, especially now those needing assistance in leadership development for effective ministries. Now, I say all this not to pat myself on the back, but to supply concrete evidence of the manner in which my passion for those caught in the net of poverty is implemented each day. Of course, I don't do this by myself. It is only by the grace of God and the help of many, many others around me each day that any of this gets done. As it says in Reglements, in honor of St. Joseph, their patriarch, they will be one in the service of each other and one in the service of the neighbor without distinction. for whom they will try to have cordial charity, as St. Joseph had, for his dear spouse and for the Savior Jesus. I like that. It fits me. I started this account by implying that I haven't really thought much about modeling my life and ministry on the life of Joseph. However, as I come to the end of this account, I guess my closest relationship with Joseph comes from knowing that he too trusted God's leading. Even when he encountered the truth of Mary's pregnancy prior to their marriage, he trusted that God was involved. God understood. God was in charge. He knew his task was to do the will of God. His life was always one of service, a movement of grace through which he manifested love of God and the dear neighbor. Throughout life, I think I have been faithful in asking and trying to answer with honesty these two questions. What does God desire of me in this place and time? And what does it mean for me to let God work through me, to manifest his love and care through me? These questions are a bit harder to answer as one gets older. But on the other hand, I think answers come perhaps with more honesty and authenticity. Here in my 80th year of life, I ask myself, do I have to give up all my past learnings and experiences? And I answer no. I do, however, need to not hang on to the past, but learn from it, let it go as it is, the good and not so good. For me, each day is a new day, and my honest prayer is, here I am, Lord, here to do your will. Show me the way, and with you and your grace, I will follow.
St. Joseph? All I know is that from my earliest years as a child, growing up in the small town of Lake Linden, Michigan, I was surrounded by St. Joseph. My teachers, Sisters of St. Joseph, our St. Joseph Church, filled with stained glass windows depicting Joseph, statues of Joseph, holy cards of St. Joseph. I went to St. Joseph School for my first 8 years, taught by the Sisters of St. Joseph of Concordia. We even got a free day on his feast day. St. Joseph was important, but that's not what I remember. My treasured memories are rather of the Sisters of St. Joseph who every afternoon after school went out by twos, visiting the sick, the bereaved, the dying, or anyone they knew was in need. These women were out rain or shine, even in the bitter cold, snowy depths of winter weather that kept most people close to home. My father was dying of cancer during one of those years, and they came regularly to visit and pray. I wonder why this is a treasured memory. I guess that I have been, and still am, influenced by seeing the good deeds of others. Reflection on this experience of my young life causes me now, at age 92, to look at my own life as a sister of St. Joseph. What have been some instances in my daily life through the years that show me as a yes to having reflected the virtues of Joseph? I know that I have always been proud to say who I am, a sister of St. Joseph. But I admit I have not always been conscious of my life as reflecting his virtues. However, old age gives me a new perspective on life. I am being taught by God and others many lessons about the beauty of life, gratitude for my every breath, and the gift of time I have for reflection and prayer. That's how I want to live my remaining days, with gratitude and praise. That will be and is my service. Some time ago, During a talk with the Mother House sisters, I asked them to reflect and then name some persons who, in their experience, were examples of a stirring up of love and why they chose them. Their responses were the best way to name Joseph's virtues. They said things like, she cared about people. She was interested in you as a person. She was always ready to help you. She was honorable and stood up for you. She was prayerful and respectful. In my present old age, I am living at Manna House of Prayer in Concordia and trying to be as useful as I can. My original ministry was teaching, but about 20 years ago, I was doing preached retreats for older sisters in various parts of the United States. It was then I began to know the joy of watching for and recognizing the patterns of God's grace in those who made the retreat. During those same past years, I had been trained as a journal workshop leader. The place and times most memorable were when I conducted workshops for men and women prisoners in Lansing, Kansas. I was the recipient of cordial respect, caring, and appreciation from them. Those were folks whose lives were at rock bottom, but their hearts were quickened. I saw it in their faces and heard it in their voices. They too learned through honest journaling that their lives were precious and that I honored them and that God loved and honored them also. My present ministry is that of spiritual direction and presenting a conference dialogue monthly with our elderly sisters. I don't have to teach them to pray. They are so holy and so prayerful. So how can I help them? By reminding them of their great gifts of selfless love, accompanied as they are now with illness, infirmity, loneliness, and reminding them of Jesus' life and death, of Mary's virtues, and Joseph's caring. They do not ask graces to be relieved of pain, but I find them asking for others, and are very mindful of the present realities of our world and its needs. I never refuse an occasion to honor a request for spiritual direction, because what I know for sure is that God leads the way. I have had experiences of many different persons of various ages and states of life. Some are really interested in their spiritual life, and some are interested just a little bit. What I have come to know is that God takes each person as she or he is, takes them by the hand or by the hair, and gently moves them toward God Himself. I am at ease in doing this ministry because I have come to know firsthand how grace flows in abundance, and it comes not from me. God's desires are moving in me, and that is my service. When I receive credit for having helped someone along, I just give God the gratitude and thanks, because it is God's work. So sometimes I do see myself reflected in the cordial servant Joseph, and sometimes I know I don't measure up. So what is my 92nd year of life like for me? As our sister Evangeline liked to quote, I hear the murmur of the eternal shores. When I was a novice, the scripture phrase which stayed with me then and even now is, my help is from the Lord who made heaven and earth. When I try to capture or sum up my life, I use one word, thanks. Thanks to God, our congregation, my family and friends, and thanks for all the experiences of my life. I wouldn't take back one moment of one day of these 70-plus years as a sister of St. Joseph of Concordia.
The challenge, we believe, as we move through life, from youth through our teens, from young adult to middle-aged, from young old to middle old to old, is to remember our vision and mission. We are to be more attentive to the needs of others than to our own, and to be seized each day by the love of God in service to the dear neighbor. All that is required is a yes, a conscious choice that each of us is called upon to make every single day.